Ladies and gentlemen, let's dive deep into the world of understanding. We're not here to point fingers, but to uncover the truths that empower us. The truth is, everyone has their weaknesses, and the more we understand them, the more we can work with them, navigate through them, and create strong, meaningful connections. Today, we're going to focus on men's top 10 weaknesses that each woman must know to better understand the people around her and to gain deeper insights into her own power. Now, we're not here to judge, we're here to empower. So let's shift our mindset from frustration to understanding and from conflict to connection. Men's fear of vulnerability is one of the most significant challenges they face in relationships, and it is a weakness that often goes unnoticed or misunderstood. From a young age, society conditions men to suppress emotions, to avoid appearing weak or fragile, and to project an image of toughness and self-sufficiency. This socialization is so deeply ingrained that many men struggle with the idea of being vulnerable, whether it's in a relationship, at work, or with family and friends. The core of this issue lies in the fear that vulnerability will be seen as a form of weakness, and this fear can create emotional walls that are hard to break down. When men are unable to be vulnerable, they may come across as emotionally distant, closed off, or unapproachable. However, underneath this facade often lies a deep desire for connection. The paradox here is that men yearn for closeness, intimacy, and emotional depth just as much as women do, but they often don't know how to express it in a way that feels safe or acceptable. Vulnerability requires trust and emotional safety, and without that, many men avoid opening up for fear of being judged, ridiculed, or rejected. This fear manifests in several ways. In romantic relationships, a man might hesitate to express his love or emotions openly, worried that doing so might make him seem needy or insecure. In some cases, this could result in a man suppressing his true feelings or trying to control the situation, even though what he may actually need is a sense of reassurance and emotional intimacy. His hesitation may not stem from a lack of affection, but from an inability to navigate the complex emotions that arise in those intimate moments. Moreover, men often fear that vulnerability will lead to rejection, a sentiment that can be especially painful if they've experienced emotional wounds in the past. They might worry that opening up will make them more susceptible to hurt or betrayal. This fear can be so overwhelming that some men may choose to avoid deep emotional exchanges altogether, preferring to stay on the surface rather than risk feeling exposed or vulnerable. What many women may not realize is that while men appear to be emotionally self-sufficient or distant, they are often yearning for emotional connection, but simply do not know how to ask for it. The societal expectation for men to be stoic and unflinching leaves them with a sense of confusion or even shame when they feel the need to be emotionally open. This leads to an internal struggle between the desire for emotional connection and the fear of not measuring up to the masculine ideal. For women in relationships with men, understanding this vulnerability is key. Men need a safe and supportive environment where they can open up without judgment. By showing empathy, patience, and understanding, women can help create the emotional safety needed for men to express themselves. When a woman listens without immediately offering solutions or passing judgment, it encourages a man to open up and share his feelings more freely. In these moments, vulnerability becomes not a weakness, but a pathway to deeper intimacy and connection. It is in this space of emotional safety that both partners can truly grow, learn, and support one another on a much more profound level. Men's struggle to express their feelings is another often overlooked weakness, one that can create significant challenges in relationships. For many men, emotional expression is not something that comes naturally or comfortably. From childhood, boys are frequently taught to man up, to suppress their emotions, and to avoid appearing sensitive or vulnerable. This societal expectation to hide one's true feelings in favor of maintaining a stoic, unemotional exterior can be incredibly difficult for men to break free from, even in their adult relationships. In romantic partnerships, this can manifest as emotional reticence or withdrawal. A man might feel overwhelmed with emotions, whether it's love, frustration, sadness, or anxiety, but struggle to put those emotions into words. The result is that his partner may perceive him as distant, uncommunicative, or even cold, even though he may be experiencing deep, intense emotions. The challenge is that these emotions often remain bottled up inside, creating a barrier between him and his partner. This emotional disconnect can lead to frustration on both sides. The man feels unable to share his feelings, while his partner feels as if they are being kept at arm's length. In many cases, a man's inability to express his feelings stems from a fear of being judged or misunderstood. He might worry that showing emotion will make him seem weak or less capable in the eyes of his partner. Some men may also fear that if they express their emotions, their partner will see them as incapable of handling life's challenges. The idea that showing vulnerability might reduce their perceived strength or masculinity is deeply ingrained in their psyche. As a result, they may resort to shutting down or withdrawing rather than allowing themselves to be emotionally open. For men who have grown up in environments where emotional expression was not encouraged, the difficulty in articulating feelings can be even more pronounced. These men may not have developed the vocabulary or tools to express what they're feeling. They might not even recognize their own emotions fully because they have spent so much time suppressing them. This lack of emotional literacy can lead to frustration and confusion, both internally and within relationships. They might feel misunderstood or unable to connect on a deeper level because they simply don't know how to communicate their internal world. On the flip side, when men are given a safe, understanding environment where their emotions can be expressed without fear of judgment, the shift can be transformative. A woman who is patient and empathetic, who creates space for him to share without rushing in with advice or judgment, can make a world of difference. This kind of emotional support encourages the man to explore and articulate his feelings more openly. Over time, he may begin to realize that expressing his emotions does not diminish his worth or masculinity, but instead fosters deeper connection and intimacy. The challenge, of course, lies in the balance between understanding his emotional challenges and not forcing him to express himself before he's ready. Forcing a man to open up before he's comfortable may lead to resistance or even further withdrawal. However, by fostering an environment of trust and patience, where emotional expression is normalized and welcomed, men can slowly learn to embrace vulnerability in a healthier, more meaningful way. The fear of rejection is one of the most pervasive and deeply ingrained vulnerabilities that many men face, yet it's often hidden behind a veneer of confidence or indifference. Although men are often portrayed as being impervious to rejection, the reality is quite different. Men, just like women, experience the emotional sting of rejection, and in fact, it can be even more pronounced because of the societal pressure on men to succeed, provide, and maintain control in various aspects of their lives. This fear of rejection, whether it's personal, professional, or social, can deeply affect a man's sense of self-worth and emotional well-being. One of the primary reasons men fear rejection is that they often tie their self-esteem to their ability to succeed or be perceived as capable. In romantic relationships, for instance, a man's sense of masculinity and value can be challenged when he fears being rejected by a woman. The fear of not being good enough or not measuring up to her expectations is powerful. He might worry that he's not attractive enough, not successful enough, or simply not what she's looking for. This fear of inadequacy can prevent him from fully expressing his feelings or making the first move in a relationship, as he may fear the potential of being turned away or dismissed. In professional settings, this fear of rejection can manifest as hesitance to speak up, share ideas, or take risks. Men are often socialized to be competitive, to show strength, and to assert themselves. But when faced with the possibility of failure or rejection, that same fear can lead to hesitation or inaction. The risk of not being accepted by peers, colleagues, or superiors can prevent a man from pursuing opportunities that might help him grow professionally or personally. The internal dialogue may go something like, what if they don't think I'm good enough? What if I fail and am judged for it? This fear of judgment and rejection can keep men from stepping outside their comfort zones and can limit their growth and potential. On a deeper level, this fear is often rooted in early experiences of rejection, whether from family, peers, or past relationships. A man who has faced emotional rejection as a child or in previous romantic relationships may carry those wounds into adulthood, unconsciously shaping the way he interacts with others. The fear of rejection becomes a protective mechanism. Avoiding situations where he might feel vulnerable to being turned away is a way to prevent further emotional pain. However, this also means that he might avoid forming meaningful connections altogether, whether in personal or professional relationships, in order to protect himself from potential hurt. For men who struggle with this fear, it is essential for those around them, especially women who may be in romantic relationships with them, to offer reassurance, patience, and understanding by creating an environment where rejection is not viewed as a personal flaw, but as part of the process of growth and connection. A woman can help alleviate some of the fear that holds a man back. Encouraging open communication, affirming his worth, and providing positive reinforcement can help a man feel more secure in himself and in his relationships. Rather than seeing rejection as a reflection of his inadequacy, he can begin to view it as a temporary setback or simply a natural part of life's experiences. The fear of rejection is not only a challenge for men, it is a human experience. However, when acknowledged and addressed with empathy and compassion, it becomes possible to break down the walls that fear creates. By offering support, understanding, and encouragement, women can help men embrace vulnerability and move beyond the paralyzing fear of rejection that often holds them back from true emotional intimacy and success. Pride and ego are two of the most powerful forces in a man's emotional landscape, often acting as both a shield and a barrier. Beneath the layers of pride, many men carry insecurities that they may not even be fully aware of, but these insecurities manifest in the form of an inflated ego, which serves as a defense mechanism against vulnerability and perceived weakness. Men are often socialized to believe that being strong, self-reliant, and in control is essential to their identity, and as a result, they may overcompensate by projecting a sense of superiority or self-importance. This pride, though protective in nature, can be a major obstacle in forming deep, meaningful connections, particularly in relationships where emotional intimacy is key. The root of this pride and ego often lies in a deeply ingrained fear of inadequacy. Men are taught from a young age to be the providers, the protectors, and the doers in society. To show vulnerability or to admit that they need help can feel like a direct threat to their sense of worth. The ego then steps in as a protective measure, encouraging them to maintain a strong front, even if that means hiding their true emotions or struggling in silence. This can lead to situations where men refuse to ask for help, even when they desperately need it. The fear is that asking for assistance or showing uncertainty will be seen as weakness, and this would undermine their self-image as capable and in control. In romantic relationships, this pride can create a dynamic where a man might withhold his emotions or avoid discussing difficult topics. He may act as if he has everything under control, even if he is struggling internally. This pride can also manifest as stubbornness or an unwillingness to admit when he is wrong. He might feel that admitting a mistake or acknowledging his flaws will diminish his standing in the relationship, when in reality, being open about imperfections can actually foster deeper trust and connection. Unfortunately, the ego makes him believe that admitting vulnerability will somehow diminish his power or worth in the eyes of his partner. The pride and ego also play a significant role in a man's reluctance to engage in conflict resolution. When tensions arise, the ego-driven instinct is often to win the argument or to avoid it altogether rather than confront the underlying issues. This can result in a lack of meaningful communication, where both partners walk away from the situation feeling misunderstood. The man may believe that by maintaining his stance, he is asserting his strength and dominance in the relationship, but in reality, this only pushes his partner away and deepens the emotional distance. For women in relationships with men, understanding the role that pride and ego play in shaping a man's behavior is crucial. It's important to recognize that the pride a man shows on the surface is often a shield designed to protect him from deeper emotional vulnerabilities. His reluctance to open up or show weakness is not necessarily a reflection of how he feels about his partner, but rather an internal struggle with his own fears and insecurities. To navigate this dynamic, women can approach their partners with empathy and patience. Instead of reacting to his pride or ego with frustration or criticism, it can be helpful to offer gentle support, creating a safe space where he can lower his guard without feeling judged. Acknowledging his strengths without reinforcing the need for him to always be perfect can help him feel appreciated for who he is, not just for what he can do. Over time, this approach can encourage him to gradually dismantle the walls built by his ego and show more of his authentic self. Ultimately, overcoming the barriers created by pride and ego requires a shift in mindset. Men need to realize that vulnerability and emotional openness are not signs of weakness, but rather signs of strength and maturity. When they can let go of the need to protect their ego at all costs, they open themselves up to deeper connections and a more fulfilling emotional life, both within themselves and in their relationships. Many men face challenges when it comes to long-term commitment, whether it be in romantic relationships, careers, or personal goals. The idea of making a lasting commitment often triggers deep-seated fears and uncertainties about their future, their identity, and their ability to meet expectations. For men, particularly those who have been socialized to be independent and self-reliant, the prospect of committing to something or someone for the long haul can feel daunting. The fear of losing freedom or failing to live up to the responsibilities that come with commitment often outweighs the potential rewards, leading them to hesitate or avoid making long-term decisions. One of the core reasons men struggle with long-term commitment is the uncertainty it brings. Many men are conditioned to seek short-term rewards or goals, and long-term commitments often require a level of emotional maturity, self-awareness, and sacrifice that can be intimidating. Men are often taught to focus on personal success, achievement, and autonomy, so the idea of integrating someone else into their plans for the future can feel like a threat to their independence. In romantic relationships, for example, a man may fear that committing to a partner means sacrificing his personal space, freedom, or individual pursuits. He might worry that the responsibilities of commitment will force him to lose his sense of self or limit his personal growth. This fear can be compounded by societal pressure to meet certain standards of success and masculinity. For many men, long-term commitment means taking on significant responsibility, whether it's providing financially, emotionally, or otherwise. The fear of not being able to live up to these responsibilities can make the idea of commitment feel like an overwhelming burden. The thought of potentially failing in a relationship or career can hold a man back from fully embracing the concept of long-term dedication. If a man has doubts about his own ability to succeed, whether in a job or a relationship, he may opt for a more comfortable short-term approach to avoid confronting those insecurities. In addition, men who have had negative experiences with commitment in the past, whether in previous relationships, jobs, or family dynamics, can carry those wounds into future endeavors. If a man has been hurt by someone he loved or has experienced failure in a long-term project, the fear of history repeating itself can paralyze him from making future commitments. The emotional scars left by these past experiences may create a sense of reluctance or fear when it comes to fully dedicating himself to another person or goal. He may struggle with the belief that any commitment, no matter how well-intentioned, could end in disappointment or pain. However, the fear of long-term commitment is not always rooted in a lack of desire for a lasting connection. Often it stems from an uncertainty about whether he can meet the expectations placed on him or whether he has the emotional tools necessary to navigate the complexities of a long-term relationship. Men may wrestle with feelings of inadequacy or the belief that they must have everything figured out before they can commit. This need for certainty can delay or even prevent them from fully engaging in a committed relationship because they feel that they must be completely prepared and flawless before taking that step. For women in relationships with men, understanding the underlying reasons for this fear of commitment can be crucial. It is important to recognize that a man's reluctance to commit is often not a reflection of his feelings for his partner, but rather a fear of being unable to live up to the expectations that come with that commitment. By offering reassurance, creating an environment of trust, and showing that long-term commitment does not require perfection, women can help alleviate some of the pressure that men may feel. Encouraging open dialogue about fears, insecurities, and concerns can help a man feel more comfortable with the idea of commitment and allow him to explore the possibility of building something lasting without the fear of failure. Ultimately, overcoming the fear of long-term commitment requires a shift in mindset, both for the individual and their partner. It involves recognizing that growth comes from embracing challenges and that commitment is not a loss of freedom, but rather an opportunity for personal development and shared success. By offering understanding and patience, women can help men see that commitment is not about being perfect, but about being willing to grow and evolve together over time. When men are able to embrace commitment as an empowering choice rather than an overwhelming burden, they can create more fulfilling and lasting connections. The fear of failure is a crippling and pervasive weakness that many men face, often holding them back from pursuing their dreams and reaching their full potential. Men, especially those who have been raised with the expectation of achieving success and being in control, often internalize a deep fear of failing. This fear can manifest in a variety of ways, from avoiding risks and opportunities to experiencing anxiety and self-doubt when faced with challenges. Failure, for many men, is not just an event. It is a reflection of their worth, capability, and value in society. This mindset can create a paralyzing effect, preventing them from moving forward in both personal and professional aspects of their lives. The root of this fear lies in the societal pressures placed on men to succeed, to provide, and to maintain control over their lives and their environments. From a young age, boys are often taught that failure is something to be avoided at all costs, that success is the marker of their worth, and that any form of defeat is a personal failure. This creates an overwhelming pressure to perform, often leading to a fear of taking risks or stepping outside of one's comfort zone. Men may feel that they must always be successful, whether in their careers, relationships, or personal lives, because any failure would be perceived as a weakness. The thought of falling short can be so daunting that they may shy away from opportunities even when they have the potential to grow or succeed. In romantic relationships, this fear of failure can create a significant emotional barrier. A man might hesitate to open up or invest emotionally because he fears that doing so will ultimately lead to rejection or disappointment. If a relationship does not go as planned, he may internalize the experience as a failure, questioning his ability to maintain healthy connections, or wondering if he's incapable of making the relationship work. This fear of failure can make him avoid deeper emotional investments or prevent him from being fully vulnerable as he anticipates that things might not turn out as expected. In the workplace, the fear of failure can be just as limiting. Men may avoid pursuing promotions, new projects, or entrepreneurial ventures because they fear that failure will reflect poorly on their professional abilities. The desire to be seen as competent, capable, and successful can sometimes overshadow the desire to take chances or try something new. The result is a stagnation in their careers as they continue to play it safe and avoid stepping outside their established roles. The internal pressure to perform at a high level while simultaneously fearing the possibility of failure can lead to anxiety, stress, and a lack of fulfillment. Men may also struggle with self-worth when they do fail, feeling a deep sense of shame and inadequacy. The fear of failure often becomes a cycle, where the avoidance of failure leads to missed opportunities, which then feeds into their insecurity and further reluctance to take risks. In some cases, the fear of failure becomes so ingrained that it prevents them from even attempting new ventures, as they believe that the potential for failure outweighs any chance of success. This mindset can be debilitating, causing men to settle for less than what they are truly capable of achieving. For women in relationships with men, it's important to understand that this fear of failure is not simply an expression of reluctance or laziness. It's often rooted in deeply held beliefs about self-worth and the external pressures that men face. By offering reassurance, emotional support, and patience, women can help men feel more confident in taking risks and embracing failure as a part of the growth process. Instead of criticizing or becoming frustrated when a man is hesitant to take on new challenges, offering a safe space where failure is seen as a learning experience rather than a judgment can encourage him to push beyond his fears and try new things. In relationships, as well as in their careers and personal pursuits, men need to be reminded that failure does not define them. It is a temporary setback, not a reflection of their entire worth or ability. Embracing failure as a natural part of growth and learning can help dismantle the paralyzing fear that holds many men back from realizing their potential. When they are encouraged to take risks, make mistakes, and grow from those experiences, men can begin to break free from the limitations imposed by their fear of failure and step into a more confident, empowered version of themselves. The fear of expressing emotions or appearing weak is another deeply ingrained weakness that many men grapple with, which often affects their relationships and mental health. From an early age, boys are taught to suppress their emotions, to be tough, and to project an image of strength and resilience at all times. The idea that showing emotion is a sign of weakness is a belief that is deeply embedded in the way many men are socialized. While these teachings may be well-meaning in encouraging resilience, they also create an environment where men feel it is not acceptable to express vulnerability or emotional distress, leading them to internalize their struggle. This fear of appearing weak often manifests in a reluctance to share or express emotions, even in intimate relationships. Men may feel that expressing sadness, fear, anxiety, or even love will make them appear less masculine or less capable in the eyes of others, especially their romantic partners. The pressure to always maintain control of their emotions can lead to emotional repression, where feelings are pushed down and avoided rather than acknowledged and processed. As a result, men may withdraw from situations that require emotional engagement or avoid conversations that would involve discussing deeper emotions. In relationships, this fear of appearing weak can create a significant emotional distance between partners. A man might hold back on sharing his thoughts or feelings, which can make his partner feel isolated or disconnected. Even when there is an opportunity for emotional closeness, his internal fear of being perceived as fragile or vulnerable may prevent him from opening up. He may avoid confronting difficult issues in the relationship, thinking that discussing them will expose his insecurities or weaknesses. This emotional withholding can lead to misunderstandings, resentment, or frustration in the relationship, as the partner is left to wonder why he is not fully present or engaged. On a broader scale, the fear of emotional expression can have serious consequences for a man's mental health. When emotions are suppressed, it becomes difficult for a man to process his feelings effectively. Over time, this can lead to a buildup of stress, anxiety, and frustration. Without an outlet for emotional release, these feelings may manifest in unhealthy ways, such as irritability, anger, or even depression. Many men struggle with asking for help or seeking therapy due to the stigma surrounding emotional expression, further compounding their difficulties. They may feel that admitting they are struggling emotionally or seeking support will make them appear weak, even though these are vital steps toward healing and well-being. The internal conflict between the desire to express emotions and the fear of being perceived as weak can also prevent men from fully engaging in their personal lives. When they are unable to open up about their needs, desires, or challenges, they may experience a sense of isolation. This sense of isolation can be particularly pronounced when they feel that they cannot share their vulnerabilities with their partners, friends, or family members. The inability to express emotions freely can lead to a cycle of emotional numbing, where men start to feel disconnected not only from others, but also from their own feelings. This disconnection can hinder personal growth and the development of deeper emotional intimacy with others. For women who are in relationships with men, understanding the emotional barriers that come with this fear of appearing weak is essential. It's important to recognize that a man's hesitation to open up emotionally does not necessarily indicate a lack of affection or care. Rather, it is often a reflection of his internal struggle with societal expectations and the vulnerability he feels in showing his true emotions. Women can play a significant role in helping their partners overcome these fears by creating a safe space where emotional expression is welcomed rather than judged. By offering empathy, understanding, and reassurance, women can help men feel more comfortable with vulnerability, which, in turn, strengthens the emotional bond in the relationship. The key is to normalize emotional expression and help men understand that vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to their strength and emotional intelligence. When men feel safe to express their emotions without fear of judgment, they are able to build healthier, more authentic relationships. Overcoming the fear of emotional expression allows men to embrace their full emotional range, leading to greater emotional well-being, stronger connections with others, and a more balanced, fulfilling life. The fear of losing control is a powerful and often debilitating weakness that many men experience, which can significantly impact both their personal and professional lives. Control, for many men, is closely tied to their identity and sense of self-worth. From a young age, boys are often encouraged to assert control over their surroundings, their emotions, and their lives. This societal pressure can make the idea of losing control feel terrifying. The need to maintain control over every aspect of their lives can lead to stress, anxiety, and avoidance behaviors, as men fear the vulnerability that comes with surrendering control. One of the primary reasons for this fear of losing control is rooted in the desire for security and stability. Men are frequently socialized to be the providers, protectors, and decision makers, which positions them in a role that demands an ability to manage and control situations. Whether it's in their careers, relationships, or daily responsibilities, the pressure to maintain control can weigh heavily on them. Losing control could mean failure, perceived incompetence, or a loss of status, which in turn could damage their self-esteem and sense of personal worth. This belief can lead men to avoid situations where they feel they might not be able to maintain control, even if those situations offer opportunities for growth and change. In romantic relationships, the fear of losing control can present itself in several ways. Men may struggle with the idea of letting go of their autonomy or submitting to the needs of a partner. The act of compromising, which requires a level of emotional surrender and vulnerability, can be seen as a loss of control. This can lead to a reluctance to communicate openly or be emotionally available, as the fear of being vulnerable can feel like a threat to their sense of self-preservation. A man who is afraid of losing control may also be less willing to trust his partner or to allow the relationship to evolve naturally. He might try to maintain dominance or control over various aspects of the relationship, often unintentionally pushing his partner away in the process. In professional settings, this fear can manifest in a constant need to micromanage, overwork, or take on too much responsibility. Men who fear losing control may hesitate to delegate tasks or rely on others, as they feel that the only way to ensure things are done correctly is by doing everything themselves. This can lead to burnout, stress, and a lack of productivity. The fear of losing control in a work environment often stems from a belief that if something goes wrong, it will reflect poorly on their competence and reliability. As a result, men may overcompensate by trying to handle every situation on their own, which can create a cycle of stress and inefficiency. The fear of losing control is often closely related to a deeper fear of failure. For many men, failure is not just an event, but a reflection of their personal shortcomings, and losing control may feel like an inevitable path to failure. This fear can prevent them from taking risks or making bold decisions, as they fear the consequences of not being able to manage every aspect of the outcome. It's a constant balancing act of trying to hold everything together, which can lead to anxiety and a lack of confidence in their ability to handle unpredictability. This constant need for control can also hinder personal growth. Growth often requires the ability to step outside of one's comfort zone, to be open to new experiences, and to acknowledge that not everything can be controlled. Men who are overly focused on maintaining control may resist change or avoid situations that challenge their current understanding of the world. They may feel threatened by the unknown or by anything that requires them to relinquish control, even temporarily. This limits their ability to adapt and evolve, which ultimately stifles their potential for both personal and professional development. For women who are in relationships with men who fear losing control, understanding this weakness is crucial for building a supportive and healthy dynamic. Women can play an important role by offering reassurance, encouraging open communication, and creating a safe space where their partners feel comfortable letting go of some control without fear of judgment. Instead of pushing them to relinquish control too quickly, it's important to approach the situation with patience and empathy, helping them recognize that letting go of control doesn't equate to failure, but rather an opportunity for growth and deeper connection. Overcoming the fear of losing control requires a shift in mindset where vulnerability and trust are seen as strengths rather than weaknesses. It involves understanding that control is often an illusion, and that true strength comes from the ability to navigate life's uncertainties with flexibility and resilience. When men can learn to let go of the need to control everything, they open themselves up to new possibilities and experiences, both in their personal lives and in their relationships. By embracing uncertainty and relinquishing the constant pressure to maintain control, men can achieve greater emotional freedom, stronger connections, and a more fulfilling life. In closing, understanding the weaknesses that many men face is crucial in building stronger, more empathetic relationships. The struggles with pride, commitment, fear of failure, emotional expression, and control are not signs of weakness, but rather complex challenges shaped by societal expectations and personal fears. As women, recognizing these vulnerabilities with compassion and support can create a space where growth and intimacy thrive. By offering understanding, patience, and encouragement, we empower the men in our lives to embrace their imperfections and evolve into their best selves. True strength is not in perfection, but in the courage to confront and work through these weaknesses. It is in the willingness to be vulnerable, to commit fully, to admit failure, to express emotions freely, and to let go of the need for constant control. In doing so, men can create deeper connections, live more authentically, and ultimately lead more fulfilled lives. Let's continue to build a world where these vulnerabilities are met with support and understanding, allowing both men and women to rise together in strength and unity.